You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm thy friendship. Oh,
you know what time it is. On the road with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Buckeyes by a billion. We in the building with over 100,000. We represent from the uttermost to the public housing. If we don't play, our wide receivers got your secondary shook, so they cook them like Bobby Flay. Hey, stay out of my way and trust me, cause I know it's OH. Somebody please give this brother an IO. Come on.
What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk college football with real fans. My name's Devin. I'm excited to be here, man. I got to give a shout out to Sade. He's been helping me with the graphics. Check out the thumbnail. If you've noticed, they've been better. That's all him. Look at the new logo. Boom, right there. That thing's sick. And you also see the background. Actually, I'm going to pull myself down real fast so you can see it. You ready? 3, 2, 1. I think it's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. So shout out to him. Appreciate you, brother. I've been looking forward to this show, essentially since I scheduled it because of my excitement to gain knowledge about the game of football. I love it so much. I'm such a big fan of it that I want to be smarter about it. I want to know, right, are my feelings and my emotions and what I'm saying lining up with the truth? If you don't know what you're watching, then what you're saying out of your mouth is right. It's just an emotion based off of what, right? So I like to gain knowledge. Today is a great show for that. But before we dive into it, we're going to dive into something, a hot topic in Buckeye Nation, the offensive line. How did they look this year? Why did we have some of the troubles that we did in the playoffs? Why did the Buckeyes not go get an offensive lineman in the portal? Are we in trouble? Are we not in trouble? And because of that, what is the offensive line going to look like this year? Obviously, we don't have a fortune ball here looking to the future, but we've got somebody joining the show with a lot of experience in the offensive line play. He's a heck of a lot smarter than I am about it. But like I said, before we get into that, guys, hit the like button for me. Hit the subscribe button as well. Super chats are open. Great day for super chats, man. If you got an offensive line question, the guest coming on today, he would love to answer those for you. Put them in the super chat. Download the Spreaker app as well. Show Scoop some love. Same with Apple Podcast and the Scoop message board. Helping Technician put a great nugget on there today about Arthur Smith. Go sign up, read it, and learn a little bit, man. Without further ado, I'm excited to bring on my good friend, VB Coach. What up, brother? How are you?
Good. Glad to be on here. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Glad you're on here as well. I do a lot of time diving into and talking about, the offensive line and just the game of football in general. Like I said, because I'm such a fan, I know some stuff about football, a little bit here and there, but I don't have that background, that experience of playing or coaching or anything like that. And you do, man. So can you just let the chat know, give us a little bit of introduction of who you are, what got you into Ohio State football, why do you love football so much? Pretty much just whatever you want to say, dude.
All right. Thanks. Yeah. Well, I've been online for years on a lot of the forums and stuff like that because I'm a huge Ohio State fan. I just finished coaching my 29th season of high school football. So that's where my knowledge and everything comes from. I've been fortunate to coach some really good players and just really great kids and stuff too. The most noteworthy would be I coached Taylor Decker when he was at Vandalia Butler. That's where I'm from. I played at Vandalia Butler, and then many years later he came along and was much better than me. So getting to see that whole recruiting process gave me, we all talk about recruiting, but it's something totally different to see somebody go through it. And talk to them when they come back on visits and stuff. And man, I probably have like 4 or 5 awesome Taylor stories from when he was being recruited that was just hysterical, and just kind of blows your mind. And because you see these coaches, they make millions of dollars doing what they do, and then they just do something either one, or in Urban Meyer's case, incredibly smart, just beyond smart. And then at another school did something just incredibly stupid, just, like to the point where I'm like, that guy's making $8 million. Why did he think that was a good idea? So,
Yeah.
things like that. I've got 2 players currently playing in college right now, Division One. So get to see, one's playing at Western Kentucky, did an awesome job there this year as just a true freshman. So getting to see that level. It's not a Power 5 school, but seeing how that goes. And so I guess I have a kind of unique perspective on recruiting because of that, and on coaching. When you get players like Taylor Decker and those guys, your job's not to screw them up. Like, just let him do his thing. I just needed to tell the 6'8", 300-pound kid to stay low. That's all I needed to do. VB Coach is my screen name that I've used for years because I coached at Vandalia Butler. I actually don't coach there anymore. I'm at a different school, and we actually play against Vandalia Butler. But the name has always stuck, so I use that on here and everything. So
yeah. Here on the Buckeye Boys, pretty passionate about recruiting, but I bet you got some good stories from that recruitment, several other recruitments from the football players, right, that you have coached throughout your season. And 29 years, that's a lot of football. That's a lot of players. That's a lot of being around different coaches. And I would imagine that you've gained some knowledge throughout that time. And also tied into that, being a Buckeye fan. You know what I mean? Watching these Buckeyes, been a Buckeye fan and pretty much that entire time. So you've seen how Buckeye Nation reacts certain times. Went through the Justin Fry saga most recently. I was on board with get him out the door, get him fired, and he shoved me in a locker and made me look like an absolute idiot. And that's one of the points right there of, hey, I don't, I need to get smarter in this stuff before I open my mouth, which is, again, one of the reasons I'm excited for the show. So let's start with this year, the offensive line, man. During the regular season, during the offseason, we're like, hey, Ethan brought in Ethan Onionwa, big old 6'8", 330-pound plus left tackle. Thought he was locked in. Thought we had maybe Ian Moore at right tackle, but lo and behold, Philip Daniels pops out of nowhere, becomes right tackle. We use a guard from last year, put him at left tackle in Austin Sareveld, and that's the offensive line we roll out. And in the regular season, I'll go down through this here, one of the best offensive lines in college football statistically. It was being talked about a lot. Austin Sareveld at one point in time was the only left tackle to not give up a sack. Matter of fact, he did not give up a sack the entire season, according to PFF.
Regular season.
Did a good job. Yeah, did a good job there. But, man, Austin ended the season with the 79.9 PFF grade in pass blocking. Luke, 77.4. Carson, 74.9. Philip, 66. But either way, you saw the line throughout the season. Tegra became the, whatever you want to call him. He became the person that people – yeah. We'll go with that one. He became that person. And Philip Daniels a little bit as well. So let's focus on the regular season, man, and let me know some of the things you saw through the regular season. And do you agree that during the regular season, this was one of the best offensive lines in college football? Because, right, me and you were talking a little bit before, you can look at PFF, you can look at that. Like if you want to look at a receiver, go look at receptions, go look at drops, go look at yards. You can't look at the offensive line like that. I mean, you can with sacks given up, but still sometimes you can't. What if somebody called the wrong play, did the wrong thing? That sack might not be on the offensive lineman. So it's really hard to grade that, in my opinion. So stick with the regular season. What were your thoughts of how the offensive line did during this regular season?
Well, there were so many things that were going into this that we look at. You got to factor in, you had a new offensive coordinator who had never called a game before.
Yep.
And I had kind of said this online. You got Ryan Day. Ryan is a former quarterback. You had Hartline. He's a former wide receiver. They call an offense just like I would expect a quarterback and a wide receiver to call it. We're throwing the ball. We're running fantastic routes. That passing game, if you ever get to go and see them talk about stuff on film and paper and talk about it, it's amazing the passing concepts that they have. It is not amazing if you were an offensive lineman to have to protect for a dude that's running this 18-yard comeback curl route thing and stuff, because it's going to take 4 to 5 seconds to get that ball to him. But they're great routes. And the quarterback, I think what we saw a lot this year, when your quarterback's completing 80% of his passes, that means he's upright. He's not getting knocked around and stuff. So, yes, I think during the regular season, the offensive line was fantastic. And it went all the way to that last game where they drove that ball for, what was it, like 12 minutes in the snow, on the road and everything. That was as impressive as I had seen. And everybody knew what we were doing. We weren't going to throw the ball then. So, as an offensive lineman, it is always said, your job is to move a man who does not want to be moved.
Yeah.
And they did that in that game. So, the regular season, it was fantastic. Now, were there hiccups here and there? Yeah, and I think that it had several different things. You had a new quarterback who, no matter what you say, and as fantastic as he was a new quarterback.
Yep.
So, is he calling some of the blocking schemes? I don't know. Those are things that we just don't know exactly how they do it because they're not going to tell us. Again, you have an offensive coordinator. He's calling things. And how many times do we see all of a sudden they ditch the running game and just start throwing the ball? And I think that is what they do because that is what Hartline knew and that is what Day knows. And that's what it was. Then you get to the last 2 games. And it wasn't as good. But as you look at it, that was the number 1 and 2 team in the nation. So it's very difficult to compare how they did against Purdue and everybody else and compare it to how they did it against the number 1 and 2 team in the nation and whose defenses were phenomenal. And I just rewatched that game today, as I told you, and I'm telling you, Miami whipped IU's offensive line. The difference is IU didn't throw a pick 6. That was the difference in the game, and you just can't do something like that in a game where it's that close and both teams are that talented. You just can't have a turnover is horrible, but a turnover for a score is huge. And Ohio State was going in to score when they threw the pick 6. That was a 10 to 14 point swing in a game that was very close.
Yep.
So, and the same against IU in the Big Ten championship game. I mean, they lost by 3 points, make a field goal here, get a first down there, catch a pass here, whatever. And I've seen videos, and things started moving fast for the quarterback. I could see it on I don't want to say film. I watched the YouTube replays of the game and stuff. I don't have a great video of it, but he just missed reads. He did, and there's nothing that's going to happen when you play in Indiana or Miami. So, it was just a whole bunch of stuff all together at once. And then I call it quicksand. Then we talked about one lineman messes up. He makes a mistake or he's struggling. Well, then another lineman tries to pick up the slack for that, and you can't do that. I love arguing with my quarterback coaches because I say, you got to coach one dude, maybe 2, maybe. I've got to coach 5 plus get 2 backups ready. That's 7. It is a totally different thing when you do that. And, and Coach Day and Hartline, they understand that, but they still have never done it. So, and that's why O-line coaches are hard to get along with and everything. So,
I want to take a step back a little bit, man, and just get an overall, opinion or view on this offensive line thing, because one of the things that really, for me, the year before last, when I watch us in the regular season, I felt like we struggled in the run game a little bit. Offensive line didn't look too well with all the injuries and all those things. And then the postseason came around, and I feel like we changed up the scheme a little bit, things that was more friendly towards our offensive line. So talk about those factors, because as a fan, when I watch a game and I want to judge the offensive line, it's, hey, I see who the left tackle is lined up against. If that person beats the left tackle and sacks the quarterback, a lot of the times my first thought is, oh my gosh, that was horrible by the left tackle. Austin Sareveld, shame on you. You suck. Get him out of here. Got to go to the portal. We got to get a left tackle. But in that, there are so many variables that account for something like that from time to time that just being an average fan watching the game, you don't think of. You mentioned it. You mentioned the new quarterback. You mentioned the new play caller. You mentioned the scheme. You mentioned, right, the players that you're playing beside. You
Yeah.
mentioned the calls for protection at the line that involve the new quarterback doing these things. So speak a little bit more into that about all the things that go into what the offensive line does and why it's difficult, you know what I mean, to unless you're in there and a coach and you know the play call and you know the pass protection that was called, you know all those variables. How can you possibly truly judge an offensive line by watching the game on a TV?
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. Who is making the pass protection call? First, is it a pass play? Is it a run play? Did we
Yep.
audible and get out of it based on the look we got? You may have a run play called and you walk up there and the defense has got 8 in the box. Again, I watched the Indiana Miami game today, and Miami was playing almost a 4-4 cover 3 look, had 8 guys in the box. IU was checking to the RPO and throwing that thing. Ohio State did that earlier in the year. I don't know where it went. I was screaming for it all year because with our receivers, we all love seeing Jeremiah Smith go deep and Carnell go deep and catch that bomb. As a defensive coordinator, what I don't want to see is him catch that ball 5 yards off the line of scrimmage and nobody was within 8 yards of him.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem for me, and because he's going to turn that 5-yard gain into 15 or 20 real quick. I always tell the quarterback, if we can run the ball for 10 yards a carry, we're never going to throw it. So if I can throw those short passes and turn them into yards after catch, that becomes a big deal. So
on that real fast, dude, when I went to the Wisconsin game with my boy B Moses, shout out B Moses. And dude, that was the offense that I hoped and prayed we saw the rest of the year. They let Julian Sand run a lot of RPOs, and the offense was unstoppable. Or you know what I mean? At least that's what I saw in the field, and I was like, oh yeah, here we go. You know what I mean? This is what it's going to be. And then you're right. It just, where did it go? What the heck happened? But anyway, continue with these variables that are included in the offensive line.
Yeah. Well, and we saw this a couple times. I think it was Indiana. We saw a running back get in, and it was the only play that he got in the entire game. And they asked him to pass protect a blitzing linebacker, and he got trucked, and the guy sacked the quarterback. And and here's one thing that happens. As an offensive line, I don't know what happened. That's behind me, and I didn't see it. All I know is the quarterback got sacked. So I turn around. It's defeating. You saw that happen with our offensive line where, their heads start dropping. And that wasn't their fault. I know one time Tager got beat, but the sack occurred at the 5-second mark. That ball's got to be gone after 4 seconds. Saints got to get rid of that ball. It's not that Tager didn't get beat. He did. But the ball's got to be gone before that time happens. Did we call the wrong protection? I know one time they had a slide left protection and the running back went right. Usually that's a quick pass, what we call a 3-step drop. So your slant, your hitch, an outlet, something like that. So the whole line slid left, and somebody came through clean. And I remember online, everybody was screaming that it was Tager's fault, but he would have had to slide right to pick that up. It was Daniel's fault.
Yeah,
and he didn't step hard enough to his left and to pick that up. But if you don't know what the line call was and you don't know, what the play call was and everything, that's hard to understand. On the RPOs, your quarterback's not going to get sacked on the RPO because everybody's blocking run. So the defense reads run. Nobody's trying to sack the quarterback on an RPO. So that helps you out a lot when you run in those RPOs. It's a pass play. You're throwing a pass, receivers are catching it, but you're not getting a pass rush because if they're rushing the quarterback, they're flying upfield. That leaves seams in the defense the running back can get through.
Yeah.
That's where the RPO really helps you out. And what you want to do is you want to take advantage of what the defense is giving you. Again, when I watched it today, IU was had about 8-yard cushions on their outside receivers.
And all game.
Yeah, and we saw in our game against them, those dudes go deep and catch that back shoulder fade as good as anybody. So I understand why they were doing it. Well, IU just kept hitting the hitch, the slant, and the 5-yard out until those DBs came up. And in the second half, the beginning of the second half, Miami's DBs were up on them. And they still had 8 in the box, so you can't run it. It was hard to run into 8 in the box. It was hard to run against that defense front anyways. Then the only thing you got left on the RPO is to throw the deep ball. And eventually there in the fourth quarter, they did hit that deep ball against Miami and stuff. So I've also been a defensive coordinator. In fact, I am a defensive coordinator right now. You got to pick your poison. What are you going to try and stop? You can't defend it all. So when you play an offense like Ohio State's, what are you going to do? Like, do you want to stop that receiver? Well, then it's hard to stop that running game and stuff. And so yeah, those are things that you look at. And breaking down the games also, there were times where other linemen were making mistakes and people just weren't recognizing it. And I know you got the stats on PFF. That was kind of shocking to hear Hinsman's stats this year. It's like you said, that dude got a tree this year. So
matter of fact, let me do this real fast for everybody, right? I went through and let's just go with the regular season, right? So Ian Moore in pass protection was number 1. He had 100 efficiency. He gave up 0 hurries, 0 hits, 0 pressures, 0 sacks, right? Austin Sareveld, 79.9, 97.4 efficiency grade. He gave up 6 hurries and 6 pressures, 0 hits, 0 sacks. Pretty darn good. Luke, 77.4, 97.8 efficiency, 2 hurries and 5 pressures and 3 hits. Luke Montgomery, 3. That's a lot. Well, not really a lot, but more than I would have anticipated. Josh Padilla, 100 efficiency, 0s across the board. And by the way, Ian Moore and Josh, their grades didn't change regular season, postseason. Still 100 efficiency, 0s across the board for both of those guys who played in the second half of the Miami game, who are returning this year. Here we go. Carson Hinsman, 74.9, 95.2 efficiency rate. He gave up 7 hurries, 1 sack, 7 pressures, and 1 hit. Gabe Van Sickle, 66 PFF grade, 95 efficiency, 1 hurry, and 1 pressure as well. You go in the postseason, it's something similar. Carson Hinsman actually is the highest graded pass blocker in the postseason at 82.7. He only gave up 1 pressure in the postseason. Ian Moore, again, 0s across the board. Josh gave up 1 pressure in the postseason, so I lied earlier. Philip Daniels gave up a sack, a hurry, and 2 pressures in the postseason. Austin Sareveld, 3 hurries, 1 hit, 4 pressures. Luke Montgomery, 1 sack, 1 hit, 2 pressures. So I think for a lot of this, it was going up against Indiana and Miami and seeing, right, what our offensive line looked like. But I think for me, when I take a step back and I look at what Miami's defensive line did to Indiana's offensive line, it makes me feel a lot better about our offensive line and kind of just realize, hey, that was a heck of a front to go up against. But I wanted to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, man. And before we move forward from this, I got to ask you, you have to pick one of these, okay? It's this, what do we blame for the faults of the offensive line? And since the regular season was pretty good, let's just go with the postseason. You got to pick, was it our players? Was it coaches? Or was it play calling? You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. You're on the board. Who do we blame, right? The faults of this. Do we need new offensive linemen? Do we need a new offensive coordinator? We got one. Do we need a new offensive line coach? If you had to pick one, or was the defensive lines we played just really, really good? You don't have to answer that if you want, because I know there's too many variables that go into this. You know what I'm saying? But to me, if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with the play calling, especially in the postseason. And that is, would you call for pass protection? Did you have somebody out there to chip, right? And definitely in the Miami game, was there a tight end out there helping out these tackles because clearly they couldn't get the job done. You know what I mean? And also, you're going to leave Gabe Van Sickle in and keep getting absolutely destroyed. Take the dude out. It's not getting done. But either way, break that down for us, man, on what you think. You know, just break that down for us.
In postseason, it was, it's like I said earlier, they weren't playing Purdue anymore. Those were the top 2 teams in the nation. And that's number 4 for Miami. I said that guy is a top 5 pick after what I watched today. Like, if he got taken number 1, it would not shock me after watching the video today. He beat the best of the best. I mean, he beat Austin. He beat Daniels. Then he went against Indiana, and he whipped
Carter.
Their tackles. Yeah, and Carter is the number 1 lineman in the Big Ten. So, he is as impressive as the guys I've seen this year on the D-line. From there, I go with scheme. Indiana kept their tight end in and helped with wherever number 4 was. And Miami caught on to it. They started flipping 4. So if 37 was the tight end for Indiana, if he was on the defensive right side, they put Bain on the left. Well, then Indiana just said, okay, and checked a motion and motioned 37 over to the left. They wanted him where number 4 was. They actually a couple times sent the running back and tight end to 4 side. And he beat them both one play and got a pressure on the quarterback. He was just phenomenal, man. When he was on, he was on. So, and then the thing is I noticed him so much that the 2 D tackles were really good. Like, those guys are going to play in the NFL also. But 4 was everywhere, so you didn't really, I couldn't tell you the D tackles' names right now. I think one was 97, but they were outstanding too. And I saw a couple times where they buckled the guards for Indiana. Like, they literally hit them. The guys' heads were snapping back, and they were in the backfield right now. So when you have D linemen like that, what are you doing to help your offensive line out? Like you said, are you chipping? Are you keeping a tight end in to help with that? Are you running screens? You can't let those guys fly up field and everything. Just Indiana tried to run a couple screens. They weren't successful. So Indiana saw this. They had the Ohio State film. They saw it. And they knew, hey, we got to do these things. And they did it. And they ran the RPO so that the quarterback wasn't getting sacked. I would love to go back and break it down how many times Mendoza was in a 4-receiver look in the gun, how many times he got pressured or sacked. I would say it was well over 50% of the time. So when Indiana didn't keep that tight end in to help, they couldn't protect. They could barely protect when he was in. So and we how many times did we see Mendoza take hits in that game?
Yeah. The interesting thing, man, is when you break down the Miami game a little bit deeper and you take away the sacks, Bo Jackson rushed for 4.7 yards per carry. I think you might have put that in your write-up on the board. I think that's where I'm getting all my information I'm regurgitating. So shout out. I could give credit to my source, VB coach. But anyway, so, that's what leads me more towards the scheme as well, as you watched the rushing attack against Miami work. And then it seems like, I don't know what happened there. We stopped when we needed it. When we needed it felt like they got nervous and went back to what they know, right? Which is the passing game. And again, leads you more towards, hey, schematically, right? You just, it wasn't the best. We didn't do what was best for the offensive line. So you're saying you think the players on this offensive line can get the job done?
Yes, I definitely think they can. And again, we're looking at a new offensive coordinator, and I didn't know much about him when he got named offensive coordinator. Read up a lot on him. What a unique background that guy. I mean, his family's filthy rich. From what I can tell, he's the smartest guy in the room, and that's a term I always use. I want to know where somebody went to college at and stuff like that when I'm coaching. And this guy's very intelligent. He has done some great things in the past, and he has learned under some great people. Anybody that's coached, I hate the Steelers. I'm a Bengals fan. So, but I respect that organization. They're as consistent as anybody can be. And Mike Tomlin is as good as they can be. So when you're coaching under a guy like that, you got to learn stuff. So I think he's going to come in, and I think you're going to see the reason he was brought in is to help that run game. and marry it with the passing game. And that's what I think they struggled with the most this year is how do you have a great run game and marry that to your passing game? You know, when you're going to run the ball, do you have play action off of that where you throw it? You know, you can't just suddenly get in the shotgun with 4 receivers because the defense knows, okay, now they're not running it. Ohio State loved using multiple tight ends this year, and I know it drove fans crazy and stuff. This guy likes to do that. That's something he did at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I think he took an offensive lineman and moved him to tight end. I think they had something like a 6'6", 300-pound tight end.
The guy from Georgia. Yeah.
That motion. Hey, when you're a defensive end and the tackle blocks down like they do on a zone scheme, you love that. You're not getting hit, you know, and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, that dude's in motion and he's got a running start at you. That doesn't make for a fun day.
Yeah.
So and as many offensive linemen as Ohio State has coming back, I would love to see them try that with somebody because, one, it's going to be a way to get a guy on the field and get him snaps, a young guy like Cook, the kid out of Westerville.
Jake Cook.
Lowe, the big tackle from Toledo.
Yep.
How do you get those guys on the field? They have 7 guys coming back that started games this year. 2 guys are going to sit no matter what. So then you got Cook and Lowe. How do you find time for those guys? Hey, slap a number 80 on them, and they'll be as happy as can be. You don't have to throw the ball to them, but all of a sudden they feel skinnier because they got that receiver number on there and stuff. And say, hey, I want to let you run 10 yards and hit this defensive end that weighs 250 pounds. That's fun.
Yeah, so, dude, I can't believe I forgot to ask this. I know we moved forward a little bit, but I got to go back because, dude, at the Miami game, I was there with Nevada. I literally turned to him before the second quarter was over, and I said, "Why are they not changing the snap count?" I was absolutely furious. I was furious, and to me, as a fan sitting and watching, it seems like the simplest thing to do. I know they were on the silent count. In my opinion, I was there in the stadium. My opinion, there was no need for the silent count in the first place, right? Miami didn't do it. They didn't need it. I don't understand why you would use it if you don't need it. But either way, the same thing happened in Indiana. Dude, they were teeing off
there was
this offensive line. And why? Why, as a coach, do you not change that? Do you not see that in the game? What's the deal? I got to have an answer, dude.
I don't know because that goes on everybody. It really is. That's on everybody's shoulders. If I'm an offensive tackle, if I'm Daniels or if I'm Austin, I'm picking up on, hey, he's teeing off on me because he knows the snap count. So when we come off the field, I'm saying something. We got to change the snap count. And nobody seemed to do that. It was happening against IU. IU was making the same mistake. And it was funny you say that because when I watched that today, Bain jumped off sides on a critical play. And the reason was Mendoza slapped his hands. He wanted the ball. The center didn't hear it. So when Mendoza slapped his hands, Bain went.
Dude, I thought they did that on purpose, bro. Yeah. I thought they did that on purpose. They didn't?
No, I don't think they did. It was the only time it happened. And they replayed it and they showed Bain jumping on the play. And I watched that. I'm like, oh my God, they screwed up. That's what got him off sides, And
I remember that. He was
timing up the clap. He was timing it up, and that's what you do on the silent count. So usually it's a clap and then 1001 go, because by the time the center hears the clap, then he snaps the ball. You got about 1 second.
Well, that silent count, it was Luke would tap Carson.
Yes.
And I was counting it. It was 1001, and they were going, and I'm sitting in the stands timing it up myself, and I'm like, oh, dude, I promise you, if I'm out there, I'm getting the jump. I wouldn't have went anywhere against them dudes, but I would have got a head start, guaranteed fact. It's like, why not one time just tell Carson, do 1002, tell the whole offensive line, hey,
that's what you tell everybody it's on 2. Hey, with the silent count is on 2 instead of 1 this drive. That's how you do it.
Is that difficult to change or what?
Shouldn't be, no. Unless you don't practice it, and and I don't know how often they practice that. And like you said, I didn't feel like it was so loud that they needed it, but
dude, I'm telling you, it wasn't, man. I'm telling you, I went to every playoff game last year, and same with this year. And I've been to loud games where they had to have the snap count. And here's what the issue was, is because the game in there last year against Texas was so loud, they had to have it. So even
Yeah.
in Day's interview, he said, well, we knew from last year we needed to do the silent count. And I'm like, man, that's where you screwed up. You didn't need it this year. I promise you, last year's game against Texas was twice as loud the entire game. I was there. I promise you, So Miami didn't run silent count. They were doing the clap, and they operated just fine. They beat us. So, again, right, we're beating them. That's done. It's over with. The point being, we had all these things, and now when the portal season opened, right, we watched Tegra leave, and everybody's number one want was offensive linemen. We got to go get offensive linemen because of, boom, what we just watched and the, postseason. Hey, if we don't have an elite left tackle, we don't have an elite right tackle, even though I just told you Austin Cerebral didn't give up any sacks. But either way, that's what they said. Ohio State decided to not go get any portal. And I picked up one from Dartmouth. He's 290 pounds. He's going to be a depth piece here. You know what I mean? Unless something crazy happens. But either way, based off of everything we just talked about, you're the offensive line coach for Ohio State. Would you have felt the need to go in the portal and get any players? Or do you think the Buckeyes made the right choice in sticking with the experienced players that won him a national title the year before that, actually? So
I like not going for it, and let me tell you why. One, like I said, we got 7 dudes coming back that have started a game. So you're trying to find playing time for 7 with 5 spots.
Yeah.
And then another thing is you start bringing in portal guys, and those ones that aren't getting playing time, what happens the following season? They're gone. We see this happen now. Having depth is critical right now because nobody's going to have 4 great offensive tackles. If you got 4 great offensive tackles, 2 of them are going in the portal to start elsewhere because you can't get to the NFL unless you can get on the field. So I don't care if you're starting at Boise State. You're starting. That's how you make it to the league. If you're the 4th tackle at Ohio State, I don't know if you're going to make it to the league kind of thing. So the days of that depth is kind of gone. So it's crazy that they have this much experience coming back. And like I said, 2 young guys I know that are highly regarded. So you're trying to find playing time for 9 guys. The kid they did get from the portal is from my area. He's actually
nice.
Yeah, about 30 minutes away. And we just added a coach from my staff that coached at that school when he was there. So I need to talk to him to see what his thoughts were. He's a kid that we were shocked didn't get some much bigger offers coming out of high school. I mean,
really?
He was 6'5", 250 coming out of high school. His team went to the Division I, the big school state championship game when he was a senior here.
Yeah.
So how he doesn't get something bigger than Dartmouth, and the fact that he went to Dartmouth tells me he's got good grades and had good test scores. So so how does he end up at Dartmouth? I thought he was a kid that was much better than Dartmouth, an Ivy League. I don't ever fault a kid for going to the Ivy League though, because he's got that degree and everything. So
I watched his film and good feet. I just don't, I could see him playing guard at Ohio State, but at 290, Dartmouth, you can operate at that level at tackle. But here, you know what I mean? Especially past couple years, Ohio State has changed, and that, you got to be, 300 pounds plus if you want to be a guard or a tackle here in the Big Ten. So,
And something I'll tell you about that, and I know I put this on the board before. When you're a tackle, everybody thinks it's the opposite of what it should be. Your guards have to be these 325-pound guys and be strong because the guy they're going against is the D tackle. Well, look who Ohio State's D tackles have been. You're trying to move dudes that are 325. When you're an offensive tackle, you do not need to be this 350-pound guy because the D ends aren't that big. Now they're fast. You need feet. Last year, Ohio State changed my mind on everything when they moved Donnie Jackson to left tackle. And I remember saying, man, we have robbed from Peter to pay Paul here. We're taking away a strength at guard to help out at tackle. And that kid proved me wrong. And he got a first-round draft pick because of it. Now, he's playing in the NFL, but those are things I would show to Austin. Hey, you're probably a guard in the NFL. yeah, you're playing left tackle for us, but in this spring, let's rep you at some guard and see what it looks like with you at guard and more in there at tackle. Same thing with Daniels. I think Daniels, if he gets a shot at the NFL, it's going to be as a guard.
Yeah.
But then I think that, and everybody thought Josh Fryer was going to have to play guard when he got the NFL, and that kid got starting reps at offensive tackle for the Cardinals this year. So
I know, bro. He wasn't as bad as even I thought he was. That dude is.
I
I love that for that guy.
Yeah, I joke with Bill Green about this, saying I was like, he can play. I'm telling you, Josh Fryer can play. Now, even I thought he was going to be at guard in the NFL. Nope, he played tackle. So
Yeah.
it just shows if you can play, you can play as long as the system fits you. And that's, again, something I go back to with Ohio State. One thing they have got to do to help the O-line this year is figure out, are they a gap scheme team or are they a zone team?
Yeah.
And pick one and roll with it.
Yeah. Before we dive into that, I'm going to ask you that, but I want to start with this, right? We had the players come back. You've mentioned it. We got Carson, Ian Moore, Josh Padilla, Philip Daniels, Austin Saroveld, Luke Montgomery. You know, there's 6 guys right there, and add Gabe Van Sickle in there. There's the 7 that have started, right? Those 6 I just named are the 6 that I would choose my starting lineup at. But you got Gabe Van Sickle, and then, like you said, you got Jake Cook, who made the 2 deep this year. Carter Lowe, who made the 2 deep this year, who I think will be the backup left tackle this year, because the things I'm hearing from the staff in there is Carter Lowe is a player. And obviously they kept him. And, you know, you see what we did with some players in the portal this year. They didn't stay here. So that's something to do. And you got Sam Greer coming in. He's a freshman, though. A lot of people are trying to put him in the 2 deep early. But, you know, dude's a baller. Yeah, I mean, the dude could very well do it. But either way, let me know your thoughts. When I think about this, when I watched what Ian Moore did, I would love to see Ian Moore at tackle, because I think he can do what Austin Saroveld did this year, which will get the job done. But you need a guard to come in at that right guard position and fill the void that Tegra left, or fill the void that was there all season for us. Boom, you put him at right guard. You keep Luke at left guard. You got Carson at center, and then Philip Daniels at right tackle, or Austin at right tackle, Philip Daniels right guard, or Josh Padilla in there somewhere as well. Like, you got these options. Bro, shoot me what you think the starters are going to be.
Man, that is so tough, right?
It's tough.
Here's the thing.
I know.
If you'd asked anybody that question this time last year, would you have said Philip Daniels was going to start at right tackle and Austin was going to start at left tackle? Never would have said that. We would have said Austin's at guard. He's returning.
Yep.
You know, that's a kid who played in a triple option offense in high school. How much pass protection had he ever seen until he got to OSU? And all of a sudden, bang, he's the left tackle and doing a great job. So that just shows you things can change drastically. That's why I think this spring I would move things around. A kid I'd love, and I've gone to bat for him on several times, is Josh Padilla. Again, he's minutes away from me. I drive through his town to get to where I coach. I literally drive by his school probably 100 times a year. And his family is friends with friends of mine and everything. He is a tough, hard-nosed kid. And you saw it against Miami. That kid, his problem this year was he was injured. That was what kept him off the field.
I know, man. He was the number 6 until he got injured.
Yes. And so I think he's getting those reps instead of Gabe Van Sickle. And then he was injured. He wasn't, projected to play hardly or anything. And the next thing you know, he's in there against Miami. And like you said, they were running the ball in the second half with him in there. And the stats on PFF showed that he did a good job. So that kid can play. I wouldn't forget about him at all. So, and that's where, to me, you got to go through and pick who are the 5 best offensive linemen and then put them in there. Not 2 best tackles, 2 best guards. Who are the 5 best? Because if Ian Moore is one of your 5 best, somebody's got to move to guard.
Well, if that's the case, then Philip Daniels is benched and Austin Saraveld's at right tackle. Do you put Josh Padilla? Yeah, you put Josh Padilla at right guard. That's where he played. Carson at center, Luke Montgomery left guard, Ian Moore at, I think that's my official. I think you just talked me into That's my new official. It'll change tomorrow, but as of now, that's my new official one. Listen, I'm a big fan of Philip Daniels. One of the reasons is because I got the nugget that he was taking somebody's starting role before anybody else in Buckeye Nation did. I posted on the board. You know how it is when you get something like that. It made me feel good. So now I'm attached to Philip Daniels. But that's the thing I'm talking about. You got 6 dudes, and don't forget about Gabe. I know he looked bad in the Miami game, but the staff gave him the opportunity to start. So there's something there. And the thing that a lot of us forget is you want to try to judge players based off what they did this year. They have a whole off season, man, to train, to get better, to do all these things. So if you look at the offensive line and you think they were good this year, right? Their ceiling's going to get higher and their floor is going to get higher. At least that's the goal. And here at Ohio State, they're pretty good, developing these players the correct way and the right way. So, I mean, I think with the experience we're bringing back, we're going to be just fine. And then something you dove into a little bit, I think with bringing Arthur Smith in and how he, his experience in the run game, and the different schemes that he utilizes with throwing tight ends as well. The tight end usage this year, at least when I watched the NFL and I watched teams successfully use tight ends in the NFL, it did not look the same way as that Ohio State used their tight ends this year. I was not a fan of how they used them. It became very predictable at one point in time, at least for me it did. So talk a little bit about that. What do you think are some things that Ohio State can benefit from this year with Arthur Smith and schematically with this offensive line? What are some things you can see them doing to get better in the run game?
Well, what he likes to do is take those tight ends, and I think Ohio State was trying that this year, but I think Arthur knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Line up in one formation and shift to another, okay? If you just line up in something, the defense sees it. We all see it. And if you don't move, the defense doesn't have to adjust. And they're set and everything's good. If you take 2 tight ends on the right side and you suddenly shift into the left, you only move 2 guys. Defensively, I probably got to move 4 or 5 guys. I mean, my safeties have got to rotate. My linebackers have got to shuffle over. Defensive line has to shift over because the strength went from the right side to the left. There's a lot going on defensively. And now I have maybe 4 seconds to make that decision on how we're going to shift and everything, if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So that's why you do what you do. And he did that masterfully with the Steelers. That was just something they've always done that. If you play fantasy football, you want to have the Steelers tight end. Forever it was Heath Miller, I think. And the dude just caught passes and he looked like all he was ever going to do was block. But so in Pittsburgh, they knew how to use those tight ends and stuff. And I think Ohio State wanted to do that this year. But the shifting and stuff, that's difficult to do because as an offense, you got to get it, move, shift, and then you got to see how the defense aligns to it and block it. And you have 4 seconds to figure it out.
And a first-time starting quarterback added on that.
Yeah. That's how you don't get the snap count change because that quarterback is up there. He's trying to identify the Mike linebacker so that they can call their scheme. He's trying to find the safeties and figure out what the coverage is. He's doing all that stuff. So guess what? He didn't change the snap count. So those are things that happen. And I think we saw the game was going quickly for saying against Indiana and Miami. He wasn't comfortable. During the regular season, man, he was just as cool as could be in that pocket. He wasn't so comfortable. And that's what happens when you hit a guy a few times. And he's a kid, when you talk about development, he's going to be in the weight room for another year. I hate when people compare him to Mendoza and these quarterbacks that have been around for 5 years saying he's not running. I'm like, hey, if I'm with Coach Mick in the weight room for 4 years and my bench press is around 325, I'm much more comfortable taking off running then. You know, whereas if I'm a freshman and I've been at Alabama and now I'm at Ohio State and, like I said, Miami and IU, they had some dudes over there on defense. They were going to hit you. They bloodied up the Indiana quarterback.
Bro, that's the other thing I love about Arthur Smith coming in is what he's going to add to Julian saying. right? If you look at Arthur Smith's career, he has a tendency, right, he had Tannehill looking like a freaking Pro Bowler, you know what I
Yes.
mean, at the
Yeah.
Titans, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that's what he's known for as well, helping these quarterbacks out. And that's the other thing. Preseason, everybody was cool, right? They knew Julian Sane was going to have some freshman moments, some freshman things. Then all of a sudden, in the middle of the season, it's, oh my God, we got to win a national title. We get in the playoffs, and you see a little bit of those freshman breakdowns, which, mind you, also, guys, Sane was going through a lot. Regular life goes on as well. So there was some things going on there. He was dealing with a lot, I promise.
Yep.
So you see that happen. But second year, Ryan Day, Billy Flusser, Arthur Smith coming in as well, all the experience on the offensive line. I think Ohio State made the right decision in sticking with the experience that they have on the offensive line. And doing, I think it was the only decision to make. Show me offensive lineman in the portal that was leagues better than our offensive lineman that we have. People are pointing at Jordan Seaton, right, over Austin Saraville. Just compare him to Austin Saraville. Shout out the Natural in the chat. You've been reminding me on several things on this show. I appreciate that. But Jordan Seaton had a way lower run blocking grade than Austin Saraville did. And he played at Colorado this year.
Yes.
So, again, you know what I mean? I think we're good there. VB Coach, you got anything else before we get to these super chats here?
Well, when you talk about the portal, I think everybody has to realize that now becomes like the NFL. You need a GM because what is my budget? You brought up Seaton. His asking price, I guess, was around $5 million. Is what I. Yep. Well, if I've got 7 guys coming back that have started games for our offense that clearly could score some points, why do I want to give that guy $4 million? And disrupt what I got, and like you said, the scores don't make him seem like if he's worth that much. How much is Austin worth?
So you get rid of. You bring Jordan Seaton in, you lose Austin Saraville, Luke Montgomery, and Carson Hensman. You know what I mean? But by God, you got a good left tackle, but you don't have money to pay for these 3 guys.
Exactly. And that's where – so now, as a coach and college coaches I talk to all saying this, in the last few years, the college football game has changed so much. What you have to do has tripled. And it was a lot beforehand. That's why college coaches drink heavily. That's why their divorce rate is so high. During the week, you're working 80 hours in season. And now when the season's over with, you've got to re-recruit the players that you spent 3 years recruiting.
Golly, dude.
And
I know.
Instead of evaluating high school players, I got to evaluate my players that I've got. So I'm watching practice film. Is this a kid we want to keep around?
Yeah.
Well, it's only been here for 2 years. How do I know?
Bro, imagine what the teams this year went through and Ohio State went through last year. Well, they're in the playoffs and the portals opening and closing.
Yes.
The team, you know what I'm saying? Oh, and by the way, you're in the playoffs. You also have to finalize your high school class.
Yes.
You got to finalize your high school class.
Yes.
You got to keep your players from going in the portal. You got to find out what you need from the portal, even though you don't know who's going to leave your team because you're still in the playoffs. That's a whole other show.
Crazy. Yeah.
Absolute chaos, bro.
I've had college coaches tell me that they know basketball coaches who have said, we've given up on high school recruiting. We don't have enough time, because you're talking about one head coach and maybe 2 assistants. And if you're at a school like Washington State, how are you evaluating all the high school players and the portal players? Like, you only got 3 guys. Whereas at Ohio State, you got a full staff, you got a support staff, you got a guy that's in charge of recruiting. Like, that's a totally different situation. And so some of the college coaches are like, forget it. I'm going to take a guy who I've seen played college basketball, and because I know what he can and can't do, rather than gamble on a high school kid because you don't know.
Oh,
and he might take off anyway.
Yeah, that same line of thinking is creeping into college football too. I promise you, creeping into college football a little bit. But anyway, let's get to these super chats here. Johnny, Show Tanker, thanks for the $4.99. Show Tanker, Legend Bay will be a historic, great OSU player. Yeah, Legend Bay's got some speed to him. Tinker's actually downstairs. My parents are visiting, so she's playing down there. I apologize. I'll show Tinker tomorrow. VB coach, any thoughts on Legend Bay coming in? The really fast hybrid quarterback, running back, slot receiver that Ohio State fought tooth and nail for, dealt with a bunch of drama for, which you don't see Ohio State doing. Normally they check out on that note. The fact that they continued to press for that lets me know what they think. We got a good nugget today at Buckeye Scoop that Ohio State thinks higher of Legend Bay than what people are even talking about now.
Mm-hmm. You said it exactly. They normally don't like to get involved in that stuff. When you got parents that, mama's not happy, nobody's happy. We all know this. So mama was not happy that he wanted to go to Ohio State, and yet Ohio State stuck with that kid. So that tells me they really thought a lot of him. And he was going to Tennessee. He wasn't going to some chump school. Big major schools wanted this kid. And I said earlier to you, my one word I love is versatility.
Yeah. Yep.
That kid can throw. We know he can throw a football. We know he can run a football. He can probably catch a football. He'd probably make a great safety. In today's game where guys are coming and going, your depth is much smaller than it used to be. So a guy that's versatile like that is really important, has a lot of value. So, yeah, he can be a great one.
Yeah. 1 second, real fast. Sorry, I think my dog's scratching at my door.
Okay.
No, she darted. I was trying to bring Tinker on for you, Johnny. Sorry. No, I love that. Yeah, the versatility that he brings to the team is amazing. This was not a super chat, but I wanted to pull it up here. What up, Scoochie? Them not getting any O-line players raises so many questions for me. One specifically, does this mean they are admitting it's not the players? I don't know that it necessarily means it's not the players. I think more it means, number one, they trust the guys they have in the room. Number two, they didn't see any upgrades that were worth the money they were asking for in the portal. Yes. But yeah, I guess you could frame it like that, because obviously they don't think the players were the issue, and the problems that they have. So I could see that. What do you think, BB?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's a combination of everything, but another thing to think of is culture. You bring in a kid like Seton, and just some of the stuff I read, you're asking for some culture problems then. And I don't know how to relate to this at all, because I played Division III college football, and nobody was getting any money, so that type of thing. But imagine sitting in the locker room and you're Ian Moore, and who is, every time you've been given a shot, you've proven you can play, and your locker is next to Jordan Seton, and he's getting $5 million. Like,
yeah, dude, I know, bro.
Do you guys go get pizza afterwards? How does it work? And on the O-line, the cohesiveness of what you need on that offensive line. I can't have 4 linemen and one other dude. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good he is.
You know what aggravates me a little bit? Everybody's free to their opinion. I'm sure there's some people in the chat have this thinking, and that's perfectly fine. But people say they don't care about the scenario you just brought up because these guys are getting paid. They're professional football players now, and that's just what the game is. So Ian Moore, as a professional, should be able to just get over it because that's the game.
Yeah.
I'm completely against that. I couldn't be more against if I was possible. They might be getting paid, but they're 18, 19, 20-year-olds as well that are currently growing in their character and understanding how to emotionally go through these situations here. Everybody's different, but just because you're getting paid and you're playing college football and getting paid does not mean you have become an adult. Does not mean you know how to. In the NFL, it's a different story. Why is it a different story? Because they went through college football.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's a different story. They understand it. Because they went through high school, then they went through college. Now they're in the NFL. That's business. That's what it is. You're grown adults at that point in time. Why? Because you've been through enough life to be grown adults. I'm not saying there's no college players that are grown adults. That's just my thoughts on the matter there.
I can tell you, I have a former player who I have watched. what you don't understand is what the agents and the runners are doing. That is something we haven't seen yet, and I have got to see because I have a former player. The kid was being recruited by Ohio State. He has Ohio State talent. He just didn't have Ohio State grades. So the Ohio State brought him in for games. Heartline came to the school. Like they were talking about the kid. I couldn't get him in anywhere. Like his grades were that low. And then we finally got him at the last minute into a MAC school. And in 2 years, he's all MAC. And
oh, wow.
And so, he was on his way. He didn't want to leave, nothing. And then, and when you don't know where these kids are from or what their backgrounds are, that's another thing. You may think you do, don't. My kid was sleeping on couches. He didn't live at home. He had a bad home life, and I'm not going to go into details about it. Well, guess who the agent called? She didn't call the kid. He called the parent and said, hey, you get this kid to sign with us and get in the portal. I'll get you guys $250,000. And he didn't want to do it, and he wound up doing it. It wound up screwing him over bad. He ended up at another school finally, and it was at the last minute. He missed the entire spring because when he was going on his visits, he wasn't in classes at his college. He winds up flunking a class. NCAA rules say if you're ineligible, you cannot transfer to another school. His school entered the portal. We don't have a scholarship for you. He was in no man's land. And
bro, dude, that's wild.
Yeah. So but when you're living in government apartments and stuff, and that agent promises you $250,000 to your family, that's life-changing money. And to you and I, it's a lot of money, but we're not going to suddenly change our whole lives over that. But when you're in government apartments and you're one of 5 kids, it is life-changing money.
I know, dude. I've dove in. I've heard similar stories to that as well. That's pretty close to a firsthand experience there. That's the super ugly part of the portal. And lo and behold, chat, I don't know if you've heard this before, but guess what that story involves? An agent. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? Anyway, Ernie, thanks for the $1.99. Love the new logo. Yeah, shout out Sade in the chat, killing the game. With the logo, the background, the thumbnails. I love it, man. Steely, thanks for the $1.99. Thank you, VB Coach. Appreciate your insights.
No problem. Hey, when you just said the agent thing, I think back to Chris Carter, because that's when I started watching Ohio State football was in the mid-'80s, and Chris was ineligible because he signed with an agent or talked to an agent or whatever, missed his whole senior year. Earl Bruce probably coaches for 5 more years if he has Chris Carter that year.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. And I'm like, that's a normal thing now, agents talking to players, whereas back then you're done. And not only that, it left a stigma on you and everything that he had to overcome.
I know.
I wonder if he sits back and thinks, well, heck, that's perfectly normal now. Like,
I know. Well, that's like Tattoo Gate, bro.
Yes. Exactly.
It's just like this world we're living in. It's getting wild, dude. Speaking of Sage, shout out Sage. My offensive line for next year is Moore, Montgomery, Hinsman, Searveld, and Phillips. I like that one as well. We'll see in the offseason. These guys got to grind out. We'll see what the coaches come up with. Real fast as well. Hey, guys, Sade's going to start helping with the Instagram account, the Buckeye Boys Instagram account. I'm going to start streaming live on there too. Really need y'all's help. Go locate the Buckeye Boys account on Instagram and Facebook. Give us a follow. Give us a like, man. That'd be big. I got to start growing that. If you guys like the recruit interviews, Instagram is the best way to contact these recruits. So in order for me to get a bigger foothold there and reach out to more players, which is what I want to do, I've got to grow that account. Sade's going to help with that, and I can use y'all's help with that as well. But that'll do it for the super chats. VB Coach, hopefully we can make this a regular thing. I know you're real busy. I'll keep in contact with you and see when you can come on again next, and we'll dive into something else to talk about. But you got any other thoughts on this offensive line, the Arthur Smith hire, the portal, anything else for Buckeye Nation?
This spring is going to be huge for the offensive line because they have to learn a new offensive coordinator. They got to figure out who's going to go where. And if you're a returning starter, you might be able to miss the spring. This is usually that time where a returning starter, he's got that shoulder, he's going to get a scope or something done. He's not going to play in the spring. I don't know if you want to do that this spring. If I'm Austin, do I want Ian Moore getting all those snaps at left tackle in the spring? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be huge for that. And then how are they going to help the O-line out? And like I said, marry that pass game to the run game. This is probably as an exciting spring as I can remember in a while.
Yeah, it is.
When Hartline was taken over, I guess I wouldn't say I was excited as much as I was worried. This guy's never called a game. He knows football. He's going to become a great coach down the road, but experience. You just can't beat experience.
Yeah.
And he didn't have that, and we saw it sometimes this year. Like you said, something worked, and then we don't use it again. Why is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with Arthur, I think we're going to see a lot more consistency, and we're going to tell teams, hey, here's what we're doing. How you going to defend it, and if we're going to have big tight ends in there and stuff like that, then we're going to get, Smith some one-on-one. And you said and pointed out, he loved doing that at Pittsburgh, and we saw those receivers catch passes off of that stuff. So, if you're going to use a safety and a corner to take one receiver, you're giving up something in the run game. So, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Big time off season, man. A lot of exciting changes that could potentially be super beneficial. Julian saying coming into his second year, the Arthur Smith hire, which changes a lot. Matty P coming back as well, waiting on that official announcement to happen. As you know, I've reported a while ago that he is.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one I was going to say?
That guy was as happy as any coach I've seen in a long time. Like, I don't think I saw him not smiling. Like, he had so much fun this year, and he's been through the ringer when he was in Detroit and everything. And he's even changed his whole body and his look. Like, he's just a different person. And he was running around hugging guys and smiling. So I'm not shocked that he is back. Not shocked at all.
Yep. Special teams coordinator brought in as well. One of the best in the nation from Illinois. So it's going to be a big time offseason for Ryan Day and these Buckeyes. I'm excited. VB coach, I appreciate you for joining us. I'll get this show shut down. I'll get in contact with you, man. See when you can come on again, bro. Go Buckeyes. OH.
I-O.
Well, there y'all have it. VB coach, I told you that was going to be a fire show. I absolutely enjoyed it. Let me know in the chat, did you guys enjoy that show? Would you like VB coach to come back on? And as you heard, he's a defensive coordinator now, been a coach forever. At least in my experience, very knowledgeable at the game of football. I love sitting and listening to him break things down, talk about his stories, his experiences. He's got several other things that he can share on here. That's why I hope he becomes a bigger part of the Buckeye Boys here. We get him on more. Guys, on the way out, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well on both channels, Buckeye Scoop and Buckeye Boys. Download the Spreaker app. Give us a like. Apple Podcast as well. Give us a like there. And head on over to the Scoop message board. I appreciate y'all, everything you do for the show. Love you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH.